Okay, so the intrepid reporter, Mark Fisher, Washington Post senior editor, the author of Trump Revealed, he has a tweet today. Here's the tweet. Scott McMillan, a 56-year-old lawyer, tweeted that it's more vital to revive the economy than to save people who are not productive, like the elderly and infirm. So I called his parents. Okay, so he's a lawyer. He expressed a public policy position that is really unpopular and, in my opinion, wrong. And you called his mommy? Like, this is absolute journalisming of highest quality. A rando said a thing you don't like, so you called his mommy as a reporter for the Washington Post. Wow. Our journalistic, I trust them so much. I trust those UK experts who revised their initial estimate down from 510,000 deaths to 20,000 deaths over the course of 1 week. And their estimate for coronavirus is spread from 12 months to 2 weeks. I'm like, the peak is going to happen. I trust all experts. I trust them so much. I trust them so much. And I trust our journalistic experts to bring us nothing but truth. I trust democracy dies in darkness, guys. This is what the article says. He urged saving the economy over protecting those who are, quote, not productive from the coronavirus. Then he faced America's wrath. Scott McMillan had it with being cooped up, with the whole country being closed, with the collapsing market and the isolation, the constant worry, the politicians who didn't take coronavirus seriously when they could have. On Sunday night, McMillan, a 56-year-old lawyer in La Mesa, California, near San Diego, saw President Trump's tweet about how we cannot let the cure be worse than the problem itself. The lawyer took to Twitter to add his own 2 cents. He tweeted, the fundamental problem is whether we're going to tank the entire economy to save 2.5% of the population, which is, 1, generally expensive to maintain, and 2, not productive. Okay, well, that is a very poor way of putting this thing because, number 1, we don't want any of those old people to die. And number 2, he's expressing basically that you have to take everything into consideration, but in a very gauche way. I mean, that would be the best way to describe what he is doing. Right? He's saying that obviously every public policy is a balance. It's the same thing that happened with the Lieutenant Governor of Texas, Dan Patrick. People are expressing the need to balance priorities in the dumbest possible way. But the overall point, which is that obviously public policy takes into account both the risk to human life and the risk to economics, which, again, is real life for millions and millions of people who are waking up without a job today, right? That is a thing that we have to take into account. Now, he puts that in a gauche way, and so the Washington Post called his mommy. Seriously. People called him a liberal and a right-wing nut, even a Nazi. They threatened his livelihood, his family, his home. Polite people told him about their elderly parents who teach their grandchildren Latin and music and produce more happiness in their golden years than most working people do in their entire careers. The mean people who are not shy on Twitter invoked a full array of lawyer jokes, Soylent Green and the Holocaust to convey just how awful McMillan was for implying that old or infirm people should be put aside to allow America to get back to work. McMillan told the Washington Post, I'm not a cold-hearted monster. Nature does this every so often. It wipes out a bunch of us. McMillan was not the first person to express the idea it's more important for the country to get back to work than it is to do everything possible to protect the elderly and the infirm. In the anxious political and personal struggle between doing whatever it takes to avoid a wicked, sometimes lethal virus and doing what is needed to revive a suddenly dormant economy, McMillan's tweet became a lightning rod. So Washington Post immediately jumped into the story. And instead of saying this is a random dude on Twitter who said a dumb thing, instead, the Washington Post decided, you know what would be great? We will call his mommy. We'll call his mommy. As the blowback grew fierce, the lawyer took down his own tweet, took down his website, screened his calls. He was miserable. He took his chloroquine, the anti-malaria drug Trump kept talking up, hoping it might protect him against the virus, though there is no evidence it will. It makes him feel like crap. He lowered his dose, but keeps taking it because he said maybe it does work. Okay, so this guy's kind of nutty anyway, right? He doesn't have coronavirus, and he's taking chloroquine. And so you picked on a guy who seems like he is semi-nutty, and you called his parents. He remained unapologetic on Twitter. He wrote that his approach, whether you like it or not, is the analysis that will be performed by our political leaders and our medical personnel. Look at Italy. He said, I don't want to take out the old people. I don't want the kids coming up today to be akin to the depression kids. The longer this drags on without people working, the worse it's going to be. We can't allow our society to collapse over this. So here is what the Washington Post did in their quest for democracy, not dying in darkness. Scott's father, Jim McMillan's alive. He's 78. Scott's mother, Gloria, is 75. They're well. They are, by Scott's measure, not productive. Jim's a retired lawyer. Gloria's a retired high school English teacher. They've been especially not productive since February 23rd, which is the last time they left their house in San Diego when they went to the LA Opera to watch a performance of Eurydice. Well, the last time, except for 10 days ago, when Jim said he was going to the Home Depot to get a light switch to replace the one that went on the fritz. He said he went out, not bothering with gloves or mask, and then he stopped by Walmart to look at canned goods. He bought some coolant, and his wife yelled at him. Since the Walmart trip, they've continued their not productive life at home. The main activity is watching news, says Gloria. Jim and Gloria like to argue about the virus, the president, pretty much anything. They argue about whether they argue about who wins. They agree with their son, Scott, that Trump dallied too long and failed to act. They agree with their son, Scott, the president is right to push now to restart the economy, and they agree with Scott that businesses should reopen, even if it means putting old folks and people with underlying illnesses and other non-productive types into quarantine for an extended period. So I guess that they called his parents, and his parents were like, okay, how the hell is that a story? Okay, so not only is it not a story what the guy said on Twitter, it is also not a story when you call his mommy and daddy, and it is super not a story when they're like, yeah, fine, whatever. That's called not a story. The Washington Post devoted several thousand words to this. Several thousand words to this nonsense. Just well done, Washington Post. Our journalistic betters, keeping us informed every single day. Incredible. I hope you enjoyed that clip from The Ben Shapiro Show. If you did, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you stay up to date on all of our future content.